Hey, everybody, this is TJR.
And this is Robert Kinsler.
We're going to talk about a recent story involving John Mellencamp. And Robert, I know you're a big fan
Right.
and you have a great deal of respect for him. I do too. Recently, he got angry at his audience for shouting, yelling during a performance. I read this story on my news app and I thought, I'll bet Robert would be interested in reading this. So I sent it to him. And then you read it and you said, yeah, I agree with him. Let's do something on this, on concert behavior. So we're going to talk about this recent story with Mellencamp, but we're going to also have a bigger conversation about concert behavior because, rock and roll, to a certain extent, I mean, I've always thought you should be allowed to get a little rowdy at a rock concert, so long as you're not hurting people. And there are areas where it kind of draws the line, we're going to be talking a bit about that, where we feel that people are going way past, are going way past the line. I'm going to read this story about Mellencamp. I'm going to be reading from the Ultimate Classic Rock website here. John Mellencamp has spent decades perfecting his reputation as one of classic rock's most uncompromising figureheads, one who's not afraid to shift into full-blown cantankerousness as needed. He displayed both qualities during his May 25th concert in Cleveland, warning attendees that he would cut the performance short if they did not shut the F up. And I'm censoring myself here.
Right.
It's our family show. The rocker made a stop at Playhouse Square as part of his ongoing live and in-person tour, outlining his expectations for the audience well before he hit the stage. The venue posted signs in its lobby that warned, "This show respects theater etiquette." Following the 30-minute classic movie montage that opened the show, Mellencamp let it be known early in his set that "I don't like people screaming from the effing audience." Yet that didn't stop one ticket holder from shouting at Mellencamp to play the effing music after he reportedly appeared to criticize the United States. That's when the gloves came off. This is a quote from Mellencamp. "Listen, you guys, if these people don't shut the F up, I'm just going to leave, okay?" Mellencamp told the audience, "because I'm not used to this crap. Look, guys, if I wanted to play in this type of drunken environment, I'd play outside or I'd play in an arena." There's also a second anecdote here. The Pink House's singer issued a similar warning during a March performance in Grand Prairie, Texas, telling the crowd before the mid-show acoustic portion, "This is the quiet part, so keep your effing mouth shut," according to the Dallas Observer. When a woman in the audience promptly broke the singer's rule and shouted his name, probably saying, that kind of thing, Mellencamp fired back, "What did I just effing say? But thank you." I guess he kind of he understood she was just showing her enthusiasm for him as an artist and a musician. I got the feeling he kind of got that.
Yeah.
He hasn't gotten that cantankerous yet, but at the same time, he wanted to, he's like, this is the quiet part. You're supposed to show some reverence here.
John Mellencamp definitely is a artist who is not afraid to express his opinions, whether it's in print, in interviews, on the stage. Yeah, I have to confess to everyone, I'm a huge fan, like you said. My only time I've seen him was amazing. I saw him at the Grammy Museum. I want to say it was back about 2010, TJ. And there, no tape recording. You can't use your mobile phone. I mean, you sit there and be quiet, and it was amazing. I was spoiled, but I have all kinds of experiences, and if it's okay, once we're into it, I can share. And sometimes I've been so angry by the audience, it's made its way into my reviews. And at one point, I think I even kind of noted for one of the reviews, and I'll get into it. My review was not really a review; it was more a critique of the audience, even though it was seen on a really special show. So I relate to his frustration, and basically, I think I'm speaking for him, his anger about it.
Is this a rock and roll show or is it a theater show? Because I understand if you're in a theater, like you're here to see a performance of a play or a musical, or even just Cirque du Soleil. I can understand, there's an etiquette you follow. It's the same as in a movie theater. I once sat trying to watch when the Lord of the Rings trilogy was first being played in theaters. I tried to watch a screening, and these two people wouldn't shut up talking about their laundry.
Yeah. Crazy.
And they were going on. And I finally, I said, excuse me, I'm trying to watch this movie. I don't want to hear you two talk about your laundry. And they looked at me like I just spat on their carpet, like I was the rude one, and that's very common of people like
very
that.
Common.
Respect the area around them.
Happened to my wife and I, almost like exactly what you're saying, but at a concert and movie houses too. It's very frustrating. And I'll tell you, it's one thing if it's a loud, rambunctious. I know we've both been to Bruce Springsteen. Maybe he's doing Born to Run, and everybody's singing along in unison, and it's this glorious anthemic experience. That's one thing. But when someone's doing something, let's say acoustic, and obviously, it's a time to maybe be more attentive and maybe a little, you're not act like a drunken idiot or something. I mean, that's where your common sense and maybe, just having some class, I think, comes into play here. Yeah.
Some reverence. I mean, I can kind of understand Mellencamp's situation, especially the way you describe that Grammy museum performance, where it is yes, it's a musical performance, but it's also but you have to have the etiquette of a theater. Right. You don't sit there like this with your cell phone.
Yeah, exactly.
You it's like, okay, you sit and you listen. And I do think that there was a time period in rock and roll where audiences, especially during like the 60s and 70s, where they had a good time, but they listened.
That's right.
And as an example, there's a live Led Zeppelin DVD that came out a few decades back that had a lot of rare footage. And what shocked me about it was watching some of these performances, and the audience they're like this.
Yeah.
They're watching the band, they're listening to the band. They're not all like this. I mean, not that you can't, get excited, but they're honestly just watching Led Zeppelin, listening to Led Zeppelin, just taking it in.
Yeah.
And it really surprised me how different that audience and this was like probably late 60s and early 70s, the different footage that we were seeing, some of it later 70s. But the difference between that and then I think in the 80s, where music videos, I think, may have played a part in this, showing audiences losing their minds because they're selling a video. Mm-hmm. When you see a music video, it's always the audience losing their mind, going crazy nonstop. And who knows, maybe some of that seed was planted then, but it was shocking the difference between that. But anyways, though, I'm sorry, I digressed a bit there.
Yeah. No, real quick. Let me talk about a couple experience, because these kind of cemented to me the change. I don't recall, and I remember audiences singing along, getting crazy and all that. But for me, as a music reviewer, so where I have to, obviously when I review concerts, I'm never drinking. I mean, if I just go to a show, I'm covering that, but I'm trying to make sure I have a clear mind and everything. Yeah. So I covered Kenny Loggins, and my wife went with me, and we were and I've learned over the years that seeing an artist at a fair, these are casual fans generally. If I'm talking about at large, they're casual fans. A lot of them are just going there to party and drink and all that. The concert is not maybe the central and only thing that's bringing them to the amphitheater. So when I saw Kenny Loggins at the Pacific Amphitheater, it was so bad that my wife and I moved from our very good seats up front, because I was being paid to review the show, walked away to the back where there was a group of empty seats and sat there so I could actually listen to it, hear Kenny Loggins sing, and review the show accurately. That is one of my earliest memories.
Well, let me ask you about that one. What was happening exactly? What was happening?
Just everybody around, just the chatter, and I talked about this in some reviews. People getting up to go get beer all the time. They're knocking you over. They're getting in your way, and it's non-stop. I can remember, I'm going to jump around here. I remember being at a Deep Purple show with my friend, and he finally said to this one guy, "Why don't you just stay out there?" I mean, this guy during Deep Purple set, 3 or 4 times, he's just going back and forth to get beers. Why don't you just go to a bar and maybe just hit Deep Purple in the jukebox, and then why don't you drink yourself into oblivion? Because the guy had no interest in seeing Deep Purple. Yeah. And I'm sorry if I make maybe some people relate to that, but and then more recently in 2015, My wife and I went to see Garbage, and as you know, they've even been on our top favorite songs list. We went to see Garbage at the Greek Theater, right? We actually, and this was a case where I was not given free press tickets or anything. We paid to go to the show. We left the show early because and it wasn't just one or two people. It was like surround sound, TJ. We're hearing all the people chatting and destroying the experience of seeing Garbage. I mean, and very sad for me because it was not an easy drive from where we were living, driving, 2 hours on the freeway to go to the show, and for concert tickets are not cheap, very depressing. And that's one experience that really comes to mind.
When you say constant chatter, do you mean like those people that wouldn't shut up when I was trying to watch Lord of the Rings and they were talking about their laundry? They're just having conversations that have nothing to do with the show. And
yeah, just they're just talking to each other. They're not even engaged with the band, or maybe maybe they're just waiting for for them to do the one hit that they know or something. And when they're doing their new material, like whatever the album was at that time, they were probably showcasing. They had no interest in listening to that.
Wow. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I haven't been to as many concerts as you, of course. But I have, of course, spent a lot of time playing gigs back when I did cover gigs. And I'm working, 4 to 5 nights a week, playing for 3 to 4 hours. And knowing that I have to play in front of what are often sometimes disinterested audiences.
Right.
But it's I also accept it's a different scene. It's not a concert.
Right.
It's a cover gig. People are there to party and drink beer. They're very not necessarily paying attention to you unless they hear a song that really makes them go, yeah, like that.
Yeah.
I understand, that's what it's about. It's a cover gig. And like Mellencamp saying, if I wanted this, I'd, play outdoors or play a sports arena, or you could go play a bar,
Exactly.
Wanted that type of thing. So I keep wanting to go back to the question though, it's supposed to be rock and roll, but I guess it's one thing if you are singing along, it's one thing if you're, if like in between songs, you're like shouting, the band's name.
That's right.
You love them.
TJ, I'm with you. If it's between songs, great. Or if it's like the band singing along. But my next example in 2015 on Halloween night, we went to the Hollywood Bowl. Even if you're not from Southern California, you've heard of the Hollywood Bowl.
Oh yeah.
Hey, the Beatles even recorded a live album there, right? We saw Danny Elfman, so it was kind of theatrical. He was doing a lot of his material from The Nightmare Before Christmas and stuff. We were not in the cheap seats in the back. We were in a box with some friends. Mm-hmm. A box next to us. These guys were drunk. They're dropping wine bottles. You can bring in your meal and stuff. So at like the intermission or something, I went to talk to security. We'll talk to them. The security proceeded to sit there. These drunken jerks argued with security for the last half of the show. Security would never remove them, which I don't know why the security were getting paid if you can't do your job. But again, I guess I'm probably getting a little upset here. Totally ruined that concert. And again, this was a big deal because this was on, I think it was the 20th anniversary of when Oingo Boingo did their final concert in Los Angeles on Halloween night. So here he was on 2015, Danny Elfman performing again. Now, if you were probably far from where I was seated, it may have been a very
it was a good show.
But for me, that show was forever ruined because it was the whole night, just they were being loud, boisterous, not caring anything about the music. They were probably given some corporate tickets or something to get in this box, and they were just
they figured party,
to get drunk.
Yeah, it's a party. Let's have a party. When you say dropping wine bottles, like, what do you mean? Like, were they dropping?
You can buy at that time. Maybe you could buy wine bottles at the Hollywood Bowl, and they had wine, and they were drinking and eating and all that. And again, most people there do go and do that, but these people were exceptionally rude and inconsiderate, and just it just infuriates me.
Yeah. I hear you. And I would be infuriated too, especially with the cost of concert tickets.
Oh yeah, not cheap.
Yeah, I've seen behavior that I can't fathom. Like people who go to a rock concert, expensive seats, and then they spend all their time walking out to talk to people on the phone. But at least they got out of your way and went outside. I don't know why you would buy expensive tickets and then spend or like I said, or I guess if people are on their phone now, maybe they're not bothering me because they're like way over there, but I see them out the corner of my eye and they're sitting there on their phone talking during a whole concert. It's like, well, why are you even there?
Yeah.
Why'd you buy those seats? See,
TJ, we're music fans. We can't. I can't even relate to this. But again, and you do see it. It's some of these nostalgic acts and stuff. You see people that maybe they go to one concert a year or something, and maybe they're just there to have selfies or just to tell people that they were at the concert. And many people out watching this video right now are going to relate to this because they've had a similar experience. I think most of the people that watch your channel are pretty dedicated and hardcore music fans. We may like different artists, but boy, when it comes to their artists, they care. Let me give one more example before because then I want to see what else you have. So I reviewed Maroon 5 for the Orange County Register. This was back in 2010 when they were still like a chart-topping band, like they were a hit. And I expected the fans to be really dedicated. Let me read you the first few paragraphs of my review that ran in the Orange County Register back on October 10th of 2010, okay? It says, anybody who was caught nostalgic acts at Pacific Amphitheater during the Orange County Fair can attest that no matter how talented the performers, no matter how good the show, music making ultimately takes a back seat to nonstop crowd chatter, bumping and shoving as people head out for frequent beer runs, and a general lack of interest in anything beyond a simple sing-along. It was sad to see that same vibe at the near-capacity Maroon 5 concert at the Greek Theater on Saturday night. This was October 9th, 2010, the second of two shows from the popular LA Quintet stage that weekend. So, you can see even back in 2010, it was already becoming a problem, and it's only gotten worse as people don't seem to have the ability to concentrate. Maybe it's because social media, I don't know what it is, but it does make, if you're a concert goer, I think you have to be a little bit more selective and basically just be prepared to be disappointed, not in the artists, because you have some great artists out there. I'm not talking, but in just the audiences can be very disappointing. And anxious to see what you think.
Well, I mean, like I said, I haven't been to as many concerts as you, and luckily, I haven't had bad experiences like that. Luckily, because I haven't been to that many concerts, though. I have been to a lot of movies, and I have had my share of people who just start to think that they're in their living room. And I used to say, it's one thing if you're watching a movie, and you're supposed to be quiet, and maybe you reach over to you and say to your friend, "What did he just say? Oh, he said this. Okay, thanks." That's one thing. It's of course, when you're scared, go ahead and scream if you're watching a movie. If something's funny, go ahead and laugh. If it's really sad, go ahead and cry. You're there for that too. There are certain areas where behavior is considered acceptable in a movie theater, but to just incessantly chatter is ruining the film experience. So I can totally get, even at a concert, which is supposed to be loud, and how loud are these people talking that you can
loud
hear
enough
them?
Generally I'm wearing hearing protection. I have earplugs in, and I'm still hearing them. So, even and sometimes, like I said, when you're relatively close at Hollywood Bowl or Greek, it's not going to be a quiet concert unless, like, I've been to James Taylor, and he can be more quiet,
acoustic, more subdued.
But again, so they're being pretty loud if it's interfering, where you're hearing it through the hearing protection and above the band's amplification, they're being pretty loud. They're probably saying, hey, like you said, they're talking about their laundry or what they did last night or what, but it is, and I don't think generally the people watching this video, we're probably kind of preaching to the choir.
Yeah.
But, it does, in my last story, I remember my wife and I went to see Hall & Oates at the Hollywood Bowl. Maybe I just shouldn't go to any more concerts. And there was this middle-aged, these two lady friends, they were talking, and finally I turned around and said, "Hey, could you two maybe be quiet during the show, or maybe go down in the lobby because we're trying to enjoy the concert?" And they were totally indignant, totally so pissed that I would say anything to them. But it wasn't just for a sentence or two. I mean, or a song or two. It was going on, and I think it was like 4 or 5 songs in before I finally said anything. Very, I guess I'm sounding like a broken record now. I better be quiet, TJ.
No, it's good. You needed to vent. You needed to get this out.
Yeah, I definitely venting today.
I'm gonna give a few observations. Now, getting back to Mellencamp, it sounds, I wasn't there, but it sounds like it's more of a theatrical. He wants to be more of a theatrical performance. He actually opened his show with a film montage, and he's seen his performances now as a more of a theatrical experience. And but because of the nature of his music, he's always going to, I think, have to deal with the fact that there are going to be some people who still want to like yell Mellencamp, yeah, while he's performing. And it's like, it's kind of like, I don't know I'm not sure about that, if he's in the right, telling them to shut the F up, at one of his performances. But they do post signs ahead of time. If I think you should be respectful of the artist's wishes if they're expressing that prior to you coming in. But he should find a better way, I think, to say it at the beginning of the concert. Shut the F up and all. I don't know. Maybe there's a better way to say it. Maybe there isn't. Maybe I'm wrong. Yeah. But another thing, though, there was the part there where apparently someone said to him, play the effing music, simply because he was saying something critical about the United States.
Right.
And at that point, Mellencamp, I think, is perfectly within his rights to tell him to, go F himself or whatever, But I don't know, he shouldn't punish the audience, though. I don't know if it was that same show and say, I'm going to leave early if this guy doesn't shut up. That I'm not sure about about that whole thing. If the guy keeps going and doesn't stop, then have security pull him out because he's had his say.
Right.
That should be it. But the thing is if you go see an artist who is known for being politically, outspoken and even abrasive, and you get offended by them expressing a political point of view, you have no one but yourself to blame.
Right. I agree with that.
If I go see Roger Waters perform, I'm going to hear some what I view as really crazy politics. Yeah. And, I go into that knowing that, and I'm not going to set myself up to be offended about it the way some people do. Same thing if I hear, if I see Neil Young or Ted Nugent, I'm going to expect some politics. Some of it I might agree with,
and I won't. TJ, I have to interject. I've covered Ted Nugent and I've covered Neil Young, and you definitely can get politics from both those artists.
Yeah, you'll definitely
and different sides of the spectrum.
Yeah,
but like you said, I think you need, if you want to be in the audience, unless you're just literally trying to be a rebel rouser or something. Yeah, I think you go there and you appreciate them for their music, even if you disagree, and try to be a good. That's what I'm saying. I wish the audiences were a little bit more savvy and a little bit more discerning in terms of how their behavior, and moviegoers as well, just like what you've been talking about.
Yeah, I think that the other side of this, the other half of this that I wanted to say, leaving the Mellencamp thing, is the type of concert you're going to. I mean, if you were going to see Motley Crue back in the 80s, when they were when their audience was very young and wild and crazy, and and then of course there's their wild, crazy party image. If you go to that show, expect some craziness, expect some rowdiness, expect people to get out of control. Be prepared for that, and maybe don't go if you don't want to deal with that. But it's all about the expectations. But if you're going to go see Hall & Oates now in the present day, or even 10 years ago or 20 years ago, it's an adult audience. Behave like an adult.
Yeah.
You're expected to behave like an adult. And I will share one story that I'd almost forgotten about, because I said, luckily I haven't had that experience yet. I actually did. I forgot about this, but it worked out in the end. And it's funny because I actually did tell my patrons this story in a patron video that was exclusive to them, but I'm going to relate the story here. Several years back, and maybe more than, and time is all a blur to me at my age, but several years back, maybe even longer, like 10 or 12 years, Superfan and I went to go see Hall & Oates at the LA County Fair. This is an outdoor venue, but it's Hall & Oates. It's all adults. Teenagers aren't interested, it's adults. And so we're all sitting there watching the show. In between, we applaud and, cheer, but during the songs we're listening or we're singing along because we know the lyrics, or we're grooving in our seats, and that's not intruding on anybody. We're not hitting people as we move, or as we like kind of doing in our seats and getting into the music, and that's fine. But there are these two drunks, like maybe a row behind me or so, and that's fine if they're drunks, but they would not stop yelling. And they kept saying, "Play Bitch Girl." And they're referring to Rich Girl. Yeah. And sung, but there's one line where they use that line, "You're a bitch girl." And so they just kept shouting that out. And then in between, they're like, "Hey man," and they just like, what they were saying was, I don't remember anything they were saying, because what they were saying was worthless. They were just drunks talking, wouldn't shut up. And we were annoyed with them. We were all very annoyed. Now, of course, being the fact that they're drunks, they eventually have to get up because they have to use the restroom. Right. So they leave, and they're gone for maybe a good 10, 15 minutes. And we're all kind of hoping maybe they lost their way. Unfortunately, no, they find their way back, and they come crawling back up. They sit down, and they're quiet for a few moments. They watch maybe a little bit of maybe 2 minutes of the concert, and they say, "Hey, play Bitch Girl." And immediately after he said that, I got up, I turned around, I walked over, and I said, "Oh man, you missed it. They played it. It was killer, man. They went on for 10 minutes with that song. They even had guest stars. Kenny Rogers got up and performed with them." I just pulled the name out of a hat, and everybody around is watching this, and they're all kind of like trying to keep from laughing. And they're like, "What? They played it? Yeah, man, it was so awesome, man. You missed it totally." And they're like, "Oh man," and they're just so bummed out. And they sit there kind of fuming for a while. I went back to my seat. I don't want to make it look obvious, but when my eyes kind of dart to see around me, and the people around are kind of like, they're all trying to keep from laughing. They don't want to kill this. And finally, the two guys get up. One of them gets up and says, "Come on, man, let's just go," because they missed their song. They're clearly just waiting for that. And so they walk out and leave, and I watch them once they got their backs to me, I watch them as they walk out, I'm looking, and everybody's just kind of looking at them and looking at me, and I'm just like, don't say nothing, and they finally leave. Everybody just starts to laugh, and then we all go back to watching the show. So that worked out. That was just lucky that opportunity presented itself.
I wish I would have thought of something that effective with some of the situations I've been in. TJ, maybe I need to do that. That's a great story.
Anyways, so yeah. But with that, to those of you watching here, share with us your thoughts. And I guess we are probably preaching to the crowd. This audience is really into music. And I think while they want to have a good time, they know how to have a good time without intruding on others, without being an annoyance to others. I suspect that's probably true of most of the people watching this. But share with us your thoughts. Where does it draw the line? At what point are we just enjoying the show, and at what point are we crossing a line? If you just want to vent and share your experiences, please feel free. We're here for that. And venting is good if you do it in a healthy way. Share with us your thoughts, and we'd be curious to hear what your experiences have been like. Maybe we'll talk about this again sometime. I don't know. See what everybody has to say, and then maybe comment on that. We'll see.
So stories.
Definitely leave us a comment. What were your nightmare concert stories? If you have any, were there any incidents where you found a solution to deal with it? We'd be curious to know. But as always, if you like these videos and you want to show your support, hit like, hit subscribe, hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. A big thank you to the patron supporters who give us that extra level of support. Patron supporters receive exclusive weekly videos not available here on the channel. Robert, thanks for sharing those stories. I think this is an interesting topic. I don't know if we can ever return back to those images I saw of the late 60s, early 70s, audiences watching Led Zeppelin and watching them, literally watching them. I don't know if we can return to that.
A final thought. Sadly, I don't think those days are coming back. I just don't think that's I don't think it's possible to put the genie back in the bottle, TJ. But But yeah, no, I look forward to hearing what everyone out there has to say, because maybe it'll shed even more light on this whole topic. So, and thanks for allowing me to join you today. This was a very, despite getting my ire up, I think it was an important discussion.
That's okay. No, I hear you. I definitely can relate to what you're saying. All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. We'll see you in the next video. Take care. Bye-bye.